So Mia Goth is back at it again. This
Yes.
time with Infinity Pool and the Northman himself, Alexander Skarsgård. So, yeah, Infinity Pool. Brandon Cronenberg's newest film. This is about a couple. Alexander Skarsgård is playing this writer who wrote a book about 6 years ago, had little to no success with it, has done nothing since, and he marries a very wealthy woman whose family is rich. I don't know if she's ever actually made any money, but she sure as shit acts like it's her money. It's technically her money, but it's pure nepotism.
Yeah.
Anyway, so they're on vacation at this resort in a, I think, made-up country.
I thought so too.
Yeah.
I was actually going to ask you about that, and I never.
I googled it earlier and I could not find a country of this name.
Yeah, I think it's made up.
Because it was in, I looked up the Wikipedia of the synopsis, and it said like Lakota or Lakota or something, and the only thing I found was like a Native American tribe by that name.
Okay, yeah.
So there was, I could not find any country with this name. So I think it's a made up country.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So they're in a foreign country. And they run into Mia Goth's character, Gabby, right?
Yes.
And her husband, who is like so beneath her. I was shocked at this husband. I was like, really? That's your husband? Okay. I have a hard time believing that, but whatever. So they meet, and she is this massive fan of his book. She recognizes him, and, you know, he has some beautiful woman who's like all about his book that, you know, he has no confidence towards. So of course he's like enamored by this.
Yeah.
And she asks him out to dinner with her husband and his wife. And so they go out together, and they decide to hang out again and take this car outside the complex where you're not allowed to go. This foreign country is very corrupt. And
very strict.
Very strict, and you're not allowed to leave the compound at all. And they do. They rent the car from one of the guards, and they take off. And while they're out, some stuff happens. He does something terrible. And I don't know where more I want to say about the film, because I will say a little more, but I'm gonna save that for after how I feel about the film, because I do think it's important, but I went into this completely blind.
Yeah.
It was Mia Goth, so I said, sign me up.
Right.
I'm ready. So that was all I needed. So I went into this literally knowing zero about it. But I was very into this film. I was completely compelled and completely into it the entire time. But I can tell you that the rest of our theater did not share my sentiment in the slightest.
No.
They very much disliked it. And this is that kind of film that is not for mainstream audiences. It is a freaking drug-fueled nightmare of visuals, much like his last film, Possessor, or, you know, Antiviral, or like his father's work, right? Like, you know, we just saw Crimes of the Future recently, and tons of other David Cronenberg, you know, body horror that has like this visual striking imagery. So, what are your thoughts on the film?
I really enjoyed it. I mean, I had a great time. I don't know that I understand completely anything. Well, like we talked a little bit after. I have some theories, of course. But I definitely think it's a film that we need to watch multiple times to get like a better understanding of what's going on.
Yeah.
But I enjoyed everything. I thought it was very compelling, and the visuals were, you know, surreal and weird and nightmarish in the best way. I thought the acting was obviously phenomenal, you know, from everyone. Mia was fantastic, as usual. So that wasn't, you know, anything less than what was expected. But I have questions. I have a lot of questions, for sure. I think it's a pretty ambiguous film in a lot of ways, which I actually think is a good thing in this case, because it is the kind of ambiguous film where you get information, like enough information that you can fill in various interpretations. for what the overall meaning might be. But I have a lot of those questions.
This film is very sick and twisted and sexually perverse, and it's really pushing its R rating to the limit. This sold a lot of my friends. I know it probably wouldn't sell Kaylee much, but as I had said in the Facebook comments, like, Mia Goth is naked a lot in this film, and there's a lot of sexuality, a lot of sex scenes, and like pretty much every guy that came into the comments was like, okay, sold, going. So if you're, primitive like that, and that's something you enjoy, unlike sophisticated men like me, who are going for the plot, shut up. So, no, but the film, I don't know. I do want to say the next part of the synopsis. So if you don't want to hear any more, and you're into like Cronenberg-esque type of films with trippy imagery, confusing plot lines,
body horror,
lots of like there's a lot of like Mia's character is very demonstrative and belittling. And like this has definitely got a lot of like it's very mean-spirited. It's a very mean-spirited film, and there's the people in this are definitely hard to connect to or empathize with or anything. Like, no one in the film is very likable. And it's very weird, and it's very confusing, and it's overtly sexual. Like, people were snickering in the audience because they're showing a lot of imagery that you would not typically see in a film. And there is a more hardcore NC-17 version, which I absolutely want to see. But yeah, we've talked about this so many times where we see movies like this and we're just like, I'm glad they release stuff like this, but at the same time, I'm like, that the majority of your audience is going to like it, but they should be forced to sit through it here and there to kind of expand their horizons, or maybe even like, recalibrate what their interests are so they can stop saying, oh, I want new things. I want original things. Sure. It's like, well, here you go.
Here's something new.
But they don't want it to be weird. They want it to make sense and whatever. I get it. So the second part of the synopses from there is, so if you don't want spoilers, this isn't like full on spoilers. But anyways, he commits a crime that blows back on him, and they are going to execute him. But they find out that they have this ability to clone people, and that for a price, he can have a clone made of himself, and the firstborn son of the person that he killed gets to kill his clone, and he has to watch. And he is, his wife is sickened by this, and he is just titillated by this.
Yeah.
And then that's where the film then goes, and it kind of just devolves into depravity because of his fascination with something he would never think. And of course, I thought that this was going to lead more into like a muse for his next book, and that's kind of what it suggests, but it never really goes there per se. It just kind of more focuses on the depravity of people who feel like they have no limits, and that they have no consequences, and that there is no rules. So this definitely has a commentary, right?
Absolutely.
And what's that commentary?
Well, I mean, when we talked about it in the car afterwards, like the one of the big takeaways that I got from the film was kind of like how wealth can really corrupt people, like when they can pay to kind of get away with anything, and especially in a foreign country, you know, like I just found that was such a huge focus of the film, and there's a lot of like disrespect to the culture and the people, and you know, just dehumanization of everybody, including themselves. Everyone that's involved in the film. But yeah,
the film that this actually reminds me of during segments, and it actually really, really reminded me of it, is A Clockwork Orange. When Alex and his crew go in and rape that woman and are just being as, you know, dehumanizing as humanly possible. This is that scene is very reminiscent of other scenes in this, and just how you think that the rules don't apply to you, and that because you have wealth, because you have power, that, you know, you don't need to respect anyone or anything. And I think that is illustrated very well here. You know, there's no rules of sexuality, there's no rules of human life, there's no rules of, you know,
just human decency in
yeah,
general.
just civilized society.
Yeah.
Right? You just can be animals, right? And then the ending really kind of flips that. And I don't want to say, but I do want to kind of talk spoilers though, because yeah, why not? So if you haven't seen the movie, you can shut it off. But I highly recommend it to people who like weird movies.
Yeah, definitely.
Or nudity. Unless you want to see like a vagina penis or whatever the hell that old guy had when he was standing there. Jesus Christ. That was interesting. But yeah, okay, so spoilers for the rest of the way. Now, as far... Okay, a lot of it's very straightforward. Yeah. I think that for the most part, I mean, there's nothing to get for the most part.
Like, the plot makes sense.
Sure, it's just these tourists that go over to another country once a year, annually... fuck shit up for fun, kill people, and pay enough money because they have it to just, you know, have something else, even though that thing is them, right? And it's like a part of their soul is dying, literally, like one after the other. And as it becomes more and more fractured, almost like a Horcrux, right? They just become more and more depraved. But when it's time to go home... Much like people leaving Vegas, or what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas, right? It's that same mentality.
Oh my gosh,
of just like then they get back up on the plane and they're flying home, and then it's just like back to like normal life and get stuck in the rut, and they act like they didn't just fuck like 3 hookers, you know, and bury one of them in the desert, and like, you know what I mean? Like, people are crazy. Like, they'll just like go and we get them here all the time. This is what Kaylee and I were talking about. We were laughing because it's just like we went to go see this movie, and when we were doing it, like, tourists just like, we live in a tourist area, they're just like, they have like drinks in their hands, and they literally just walk in front of traffic as we're like going like 40 miles per hour, and like everyone kind of like grinds to a halt, or people like stop their cars and they'll just like be in the middle of the road, and they'll just like get out and they'll start taking pictures, and people like swerving around them, and it's just like, I'm on vacation, right? I feel like I'm watching fucking Good Day to Die Hard. The 5th Die Hard movie, where it's a joke because John McClane's like, he says, "I'm on vacation" like 17 times in that film, and it drives me crazy. It's supposed to be like a funny moment. It's like, it's not funny the 20th time, you know, John, like, enough with that. And that's how this feels. I feel like people are fucking John McClane out in the street, and it's like, I got a beer, and I'm walking across the street, and someone, like, almost runs into you, and like, "Hey, I'm on vacation." Like, there's no rules.
Yeah, it's like, because they don't, like, live in the area for some reason, like, that means that they can do literally anything. Yeah. It's so bizarre. I don't know why that happens to some people. But this movie, like, that happened right before we saw it, and then this movie deals really heavily with that in an extreme way.
I mean, we see it almost every day.
Yeah.
But we saw it on the way up.
Yeah, so that was kind of, it was funny.
And we talked about it.
We did, literally.
Like, on the way up, we were just like, fucking tourists, man. They just don't think that the rules apply to them. And then we watch a movie that covers this very
okay, what that is, though, too, because, like, I'm never like that. When, like, and neither are you. Like, when we go somewhere, like, when we go on, not vacation or just out of...
I'm the same everywhere.
Yes. Yeah. We're always, like, aware and conscientious, like...
Yeah.
So I think it is just, like, you know, there's types of people, right? Where it's, like, when something gets, like, unlocked in them, or they feel like they're, like, allowed to let loose.
Self-entitled.
Yeah. And I think also with this film, it's not only just that they want to get away with like hurting other people, but they are addicted to watching themselves die.
Sure.
And there's a kind of like self-hatred, I think, that comes along with that.
That's a good point.
Which it's interesting though, because like James, the Northman's character, he is fine watching other people kill him, but when it comes to him actually killing himself is where he hesitates. Which
this is what pulls him out of his kind of like daze. Mm-hmm.
Which just I don't know what that says about like the self-hatred thing, because you'd think that like if you really hated yourself enough, like you would want to like, you know, actually kill yourself, like literally to kill a double of you. But
sure, because at this point he hasn't completely lost himself.
Yes,
right. They have, so
right.
They don't have any problem watching, you know, themselves die, killing themselves, mm-hmm. right? Like when he's faced with killing his own self, mm-hmm. that's when he's pulled out of it. Like when they slit their throats the second time, and it makes us think that they're actually dying,
yeah.
and then they're laughing and cheering. I love this concept. I love this concept of like they get off on watching mm-hmm. their clones die.
Yeah,
this
is fucked up.
Very depraved, and,
yeah.
and unfortunately, I don't know. It could be a reality in the future.
Sure.
But this thing 100% thinks it's them.
That's what's
right.
So
they're like legitimately watching themselves die because they have all their memories, they have their fear, they have everything. And so this guy's like screaming help. Although, did you not notice how like when what's his name again?
James.
Yeah, James. Did you notice how James, when he was up on the like post and he was about to be stabbed, the way he was like talking and yelling like help, it felt like it was the first time he'd ever tried to talk.
Yeah, it did seem kind of like that. I don't know if that was...
He's like, help!
Yeah, he was like slurring his
like he
words
couldn't
a
figure
bit.
it out on how to like speak because it was like his first words.
Which that too, like with what you were saying, like, you know, I feel like every time they're doubled, like they do lose a part of themselves. So maybe like the very first one, you know, it only gets like, it's not, you know, it needs more to be more interactive and stuff. But obviously the third double
is like a fucking
is like
straight
a
up
dog,
animal. Yeah.
Which I don't know if they
did they break
like,
him?
Yeah, what they did or
yeah.
So I don't really know, but I did notice that the first double was talking weird. Yeah, like you were saying though, I think that like the actual story, like you can follow it. It's not so out there that you're like, what is happening? But just kind of the meanings and the symbolism of different things, like that's more what I feel like multiple viewings would help kind of clear up.
Absolutely. Why does she take the clone blood, rub it on her tit, and have fucking James suck her nipple? Right? Why is their faces altered and make it look like the masks? Are we seeing their true like inner self? Right? Kind of like the Twilight Zone episode where they take off the masks at midnight and their faces remain the same, and it's like you now reflect the ugliness within. Why is there this like, you know, pellet type thing coming out of a nipple? Why are nipples pulsating with like, you know, clear fluid coming out of them? There's definitely a lot of imagery and connection to like rebirth, right? Where James is like reborn as like a baby, and that's why he's sucking on her titty. Like she's definitely like trying to, you know, what does she call it? She says that you'll be.
It's like mercy or whatever.
No. She's like, you know, kill yourself, kill your thing, and then you'll be not reborn, but
I don't remember what her exact word was. It's maybe like cleansed or something.
No, but I'll know it as soon as I hear it. Go ahead.
I'm not sure, but I think that I mean he is an infant in the film, and the way she treats him from pretty much the beginning, like she's manipulating him the whole time. When she jerks him off, like that too, like she's very dominant towards him.
Yeah.
And then of course in the end when she's like just letting it all out and like baby talking to him in a really mean way and just making
James.
James. So he also kind of has that relationship with his wife where she does the same thing.
Him,
like she's like bitter about it, of course, you know, and their relationship totally sucks. Her character was really interesting because, like, you know, in the beginning, you know, the first shots are of them and their interactions, and she's like super unlikable, like almost instantly. Like
Oh,
once
yeah,
you
the
actually
wife,
start to see her.
100%.
Yeah. She's like super bitchy and just, you can tell that she doesn't love him. But then, like, her reactions to everything, like watching his double die and just all of that, she felt like an actual human.
Yep.
She was actually, as you said, sickened by it and bothered, and I just thought that was kind of interesting because she started off as the one that I was like, oh no, I don't like her at all.
Absolutely.
Although I still have questions too because of the dream sequence that he has. If she maybe had planned everything.
Yeah.
Because she's super wealthy and right. But she's super wealthy and could maybe afford to pay for it and kind of give him this psychological torture that she thinks he deserves. But I
think
don't know.
that's more like his insecurities
I think
coming out.
Yeah.
Right. Like this kid is the personification of his wife's like dominance over him. Right. So I think that could be that. It's like a reflection of his innermost fears and shortcomings. But yeah, like why he, and I love the scene where like they're on the bus or I guess it's a bus, whatever. And they're going to the airport and, Gabby is just like talking about like home life and like just right back to it. Like they never missed a beat. Like they never left home. And it's just like right back to like just talking about inane freaking bullshit that, and then they get to the airport and it's very much like, like, okay, like hope to see you next year. Bye. Like no hug, no kiss, no nothing. Like they were all sexual and they were all just like provocative and friendly and mean and all these different things. But they're just completely like despondent.
Yeah, it's because they're all like uninhibited
they're apathetic.
When they're right.
Yeah.
They're very uninhibited when they're on the island doing all the crazy stuff, and then they kind of like, it's scary actually to see how normal they appear then, but they're still like
sure, but they're kind of drained of life too, right?
Yeah.
Like when they go home, it's just like, oh, I'm going back home, like back in the rut, get in that headspace, and then next year we can come back and we can have fun again. Right? That's where they actually get the joy out of life is in being horrible people.
Yeah, that's what's so scary
Yeah.
about it. But yeah, just like the entitlement and privilege that they, think that they have and act like is just, it's so gross to watch, how they treat all these people on the island and in the resort and like even other resort people. They're
oh my god,
like it doesn't
like
matter.
Just throwing shit.
Oh my god, and she's laughing.
And they're just laughing.
Dude, that kind of stuff, I'm like, oh my god, it would be so uncomfortable to see people acting that way.
A question I had posed to you that I'm still very curious on, and of course we'll never get the answer, but is just, what would James have done had that guy under the bag had actually been the cop? Would he have like just completely devolved into one of them, and it's really just like facing himself that pulls him out of it? Like, would James have become them had he never had to face his own mortality in a way, right? Like I'm super curious by that because he's a piece of shit. And as we had talked about, you also pointed out that they, yes, they have no cultural respect and they, abuse one of this country's like ritualistic
it's a root, like a hallucinogen.
What's the word I'm thinking of?
Drug.
Drug. What's that word? No,
it's like a
sacred spiritual, something like that.
Yeah, it's a sacred root that they use for like a ceremonial one. Maybe that's the one.
Oh, ceremonial, yeah.
And they
just use it for fucking like recreation.
Gosh. Yeah, recreation. It's so I don't know because I think that James is a poser. Like kind of throughout this, I had said that
he's a poser in life.
In life too, in general, like he's just pretending all the time. But I think that part of what makes them who they are is the fact that they can kill themselves and watch themselves die. So easily, and I think that watching the doubles or killing the doubles, I think that it's made them kind of feel immortal in a way, like they've cheated death somehow.
Sure.
So I do think that him facing himself and facing his own mortality, like very literally, shows that there is like some part of him that is, knows what he's doing is wrong on some level. But if it had been the police chief instead under there, I think he probably would have just kind of kept going with it.
Absolutely.
But I think that their whole group, like the point of it is that he would eventually have had to kill himself anyway. So, because I think that's what they do.
Yeah. And I definitely do not think, and I think there will be some people who kind of subscribe to this idea of that they are the clones. And every time they clone them, they kill the last clone, and you become more of like a diluted clone. I don't think that's the case. I do actually believe they are still themselves, personally, which we can, of course, debate that. And I think people can come up with all sorts of wild theories where they've been cloned, and that they are the clones and all that. And that's fine and well. I just, upon first viewing, I'm still under the impression that they are still themselves and that the clones they kill are clones.
Yeah, I agree with you on that, but I really like the questioning when they, kind of go down that avenue of thought.
I mean, the one guy brings it up.
He literally is like, do you ever wonder?
Yeah, it's like something that keeps him up at night, like, yes. Am I the clone?
Yeah, and I really like that because I think that, it throws this doubt into, everything with what they're doing. From their perspective, but like you, I think that they are still their original selves, just getting more soulless as the doubling goes on.
And finally, James stays, and he's there for monsoon season, or as they call it, rainy season. And he just sits out under one of those umbrellas that's not really working all that well, and he just... gets rained on, and it's kind of just like depressed, and the movie fucking ends.
Yeah.
So I'm not really sure what to make of that, because like he calls his wife forgives him. She's like gonna put him on a plane. He's at the airport. He decides not to take the plane. He decides not to go home to his wife. I don't know if this is just him kind of conceding, like, I'm lost. I don't deserve my wife, like I don't deserve to go home, or like I'm now like I don't know how to get away from this place. I don't really exactly know how to take the last image of him sitting there. What do you think?
I actually also don't know. His expression makes me think that he's obviously unhappy, but I think maybe more like he's just... I don't feel like he can fit in the same way that the others can. Like, he seems to have trouble when they're at the airport, when they're on the shuttle going back, and, like, the noise of all the people at the airport kind of swells. And I think that he's realizing that he's not a person like he used to be. Yeah. And there's some, that sort of is what makes him stay on the island at the resort.
Yeah.
It's an island, right? We've been calling it an island this whole time, but now I'm kind of like...
Did I call it an island?
I've been calling it an island. I don't actually know if it's an island.
I don't know if I ever called it an island. I might have.
I was calling it an island, but...
It's just a country.
I know, it's just a country, but I kept saying island because they're like on the beach.
We don't fucking know. It's made up
but
anyway.
It's the resort that he stays at. So
it doesn't matter either way. But yeah, another film this kind of reminds me of as well, another body horror film, would be Society. Right? Where the upper class kind of feed on the lower class, think that they're above everything. So, yeah.
And it has the sexuality and everything, too, for sure.
Orgies.
The, like, gross sexuality. Yes. It's not... Yeah, it's gross.
Yeah. So, yeah.
It was a cool film. Really cool.
I loved it. I'm a big fan of it.
Yeah, I want to rewatch it at some point for sure this year. Like before we do our...
We'll get the NC-17 version.
Yeah.
Once that comes out, I'm definitely down to rewatch it. With added whatever the hell.
And stuff, yeah.
Yeah.
But there's some pretty gnarly stuff for sure in this. I mean, when they like go into that guy's house and are like... like they have them lined up all naked and just... Oh man. They're just so messed up.
Not my favorite visual of the movie. That's for damn sure. And it's funny because there's this like really gorgeous,
there's like a
beautiful
really
naked lady next to him, and like I couldn't help but see his freaking like vagina dick. I was just like, ugh,
it's definitely, it was an interesting experience with the audience because you can tell that people are very uncomfortable with nudity and
sexuality.
Like sexuality in
100%.
General. Like the guys that were in front of us were some college guys, and I don't typically hear people like. You hear people in the audience a lot more, but I am like really not paying attention. But I did hear the guys like after Gabby jerked him off. No, after she like jerked him off, one of the guys was like, "Man, he was like coming his brains out." And I was just like,
"He was."
But they were like, it was really funny because they were like laughing about it, all uncomfortable.
Well, I told you they all fucking fist bumped each other when we saw me and Goth naked for the first time. They're all like, "Yeah, bro."
I don't know what that means. Like they're just excited.
I think it was like this is why we came, or like
that's the whole
let's
reason.
Celebrate our heterosexuality. Like, yeah, bro, I like chicks too. Yeah, I like what's on screen. And I almost went down and was like,
they were like,
bro.
Bro.
Yeah, when the cum hits the ground.
Yeah,
when she's jerking off, the girls in the front just started laughing.
Well, they're just funny.
No, they're just uncomfortable. This happens in every movie I've ever seen that deals with sexuality.
Yeah, but it's like he's peeing 1 second, and then the cum is like so heavy, like it just plops.
Did you see how hard he was coming?
I know, but like I get that. Like I didn't laugh, but I like understand like the humor in it.
Sure.
But the rest of the movie, like
but they were laughing at all the other things as well.
It was just. Yeah, it was.
It's the kids in class during sex ed that laugh when they mention a penis. It's just those, it's that in 7th grade mentality still. When they're fucking full grown adults, it's like, okay, like you've never came before. Like I don't know, it's weird. You never watched porn before. It's just people get uncomfortable. Like people watch porn on their own or with their partner at best.
Well, and also in this case, like. It's not a porn. It is a film that has nudity and sexuality in it. But even though the sex scenes, although in this case I think they are kind of weird and like not as like, they're not turn-on sex scenes, at least for me. But porn is like, that's the whole purpose. The only purpose really of it is to be arousing. Sure. And this is like, it's making you uncomfortable with the arousal for a purpose. Like
I wasn't uncomfortable with it.
Well, yeah, but you know what I'm saying though. Like it's purposely like surreal and weird because art.
Have you ever seen Wilfred?
I have seen some of Wilfred, yeah. With
the Elijah Wood one. There's an episode in the very, very beginning of the show with the neighbor character who's like an asshole and he's like trying to beat him up, and then he invites him over because they like make kind of an amends. And he comes over and he's like, "Hey bro, you want to porn out?" And he just like puts porn in front of him and they're watching it together. It's so funny. But it's just like, yeah, dude, like when you're a teenager, when you're like real young, if someone has like a porno tape, you'll definitely throw it on together for that experience of like, whoa bro, what is that? But like once you're like older, nobody watches porn together. Like 5 dudes sit down on the couch and just watch porn. That's never an experience I've ever had in my life, honestly, unless it's really funny.
Right. Oh man, yeah. If you're not like jerking off while you're watching it with the other guys and you're just seriously sitting there watching it, like that's weird.
You just jerk each other off.
Well, that would be different.
All right. So what do you guys think of this movie? I avoided docking porn again. So I was God. It's the best.
It's not. It's the best. It's the best. Whatever.
Yeah, what do you guys think of this movie?
I
will say this.
What means?
The more I talk about it, the more that I like it. Right?
It's definitely that.
I'm very much at a love at the moment. It's got kind of everything I want in it. And I had a great time. I was super into it the whole time. I was never bored.
No.
Or like checked out for a second.
No, not at all.
So it kept my attention the entire time in every way. And and it was very funny to have that contrast, as usual, to walk out of films like this and to have the whole audience just trashing it.
Yeah.
It almost makes me like it more.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Right? So, that's that. We talked about this long enough. What do you guys think of all the scenes we didn't understand? What do you think the symbolism is of all of the kind of rebirth? And what did you think of the ending? What did you think of the movie? What do you think about docking porn? What do you think about jerking off with your friends to porn? None of this? Okay, we're done. Bye.